the parliamentary opposition parties at that time had written the Jaguar administration pointing out that what we wanted was a total inquiry of the violence on the East Coast, including all the activities, so that it is not a new position. This position has been very clear, and instead of doing that, the government opted for the very limited Gadraj inquiry and uses an excuse as if the opposition was objecting to any...
Didn't the president at that stage say that, and later we will have this wider inquiry?
Well,
that
that
would be that limited
He
one?
might have made that statement, I can't remember this
But it
point in
didn't
time. But it didn't happen, that's the important thing.
Can
In addition to that, what is clear is that the professionalism of the police force has been totally compromised. This kind of police force had a proud record of investigating murders and solving crimes. But whenever there have been political interference have compromised the police force. Preferred appointments have destroyed the moral fabric within the force. And this is one of the reasons why so far nobody can have confidence in any investigation that is about to take place in terms of a local investigation.
This issue of the minister, the one who has been identified in various ways in the courts, a letter has surfaced ostensibly implicating him. He has consistently denied any involvement. Does he deserve the benefit of the doubt?
The point of the matter is that's one of the issues which we are seeking to have investigated in the dossier. But the point of the fact is that if the minister has acted, he had to act in the collective name of the cabinet. Because the minister has to get and represent governmental approval for that request to be made to the spy shop. That's what the requirement, as I understand it, of United States law. So he's not acting alone. He's acting as part of a cabinet which has collective responsibility for actions of that kind. So I don't think it's enough for the minister to deny it, or to claim perhaps that he's signing it on behalf of the cabinet, or somebody signed it in his place. I don't think that is enough. But maybe the legal experts can add more to it.
I wanted to say this issue of benefit of the doubt, which you should be very familiar with now, Chris, should only arise if there are two equally compelling bodies of evidence, that one can go against the minister or one can go in his favor. In which case, if there's an ambiguity, as lawyers we know that the benefit should go to the accused. But all we have is a bare denial that just says, it was not me. In the face of mounting evidence against him, we have this bare denial. And had there been evidence brought to the fore by him or his supporters or his principals, the nation would have been left, maybe in some doubt as to whether this is true or that could not be. And then I believe the issue of the benefit of the doubt would have entered. But as it is, we only have one version, and hence the reason why we are saying we need an investigation by an impartial and independent body. We are not in any way presuming him guilty. Some of us may want to do so. We presume that he is innocent because allegations have been made against him, and in a proper functioning society, those allegations should be investigated and findings made. Until such time, he is, in my view, an accused person, entitled to, at the end of it, to be presumed innocent, and entitled to the benefit of the doubt if he has been able to bring into the public domain sufficient doubts, or to an inquiry, sufficient doubts which say that we should give you the doubt. But he has acted, in my view, very arrogantly, like his principals at the office of the president, by just saying it wasn't me, and why don't you go and investigate who moved bodies from Buxton or something else, which are important, but for the purposes of what we're asking, are red herrings. So he needs to put something on the table by which we can even begin to consider benefit of the doubt.
But more than that,
Yeah, Mr. Corbyn, he was pointing.
On the question of benefit of the doubt and the question of innocence, I would think that when one occupies high state or political office, one has additional moral obligations to the society that you're supposed to superintend. And therefore, while those general principles apply, it would be natural that if there are matters of public concern that affect the legitimacy of the government, the urgency should be on the part of the accused official and on the government itself to seek to vindicate itself from what is happening. And what we have seen is a reluctance to vindicate themselves, because an inquiry would certainly provide an opportunity for all the facts to be known and for the government itself to have an opportunity to clarify its role in these sordid activities. What we have seen is a reluctance to have that investigation, a reluctance to look beyond the veil, statements in the public domain that have been left there without any reasonable response, as Raphael has pointed out. And therefore, it does give rise to strong suspicions that these statements are accurate in the absence of a willingness on the part of the Jagdeo administration to hold an investigation. So to the extent that they resist an investigation, to the extent that they resist an inquiry, will give more validity, I believe, to the accusations that have been made against the minister. And indeed, not the minister per se, but the minister representing President Jagdeo, because it is the government that had to give permission.
Mr. Scott?
these are statements that are sworn in a recognized court of law. And it is the fact that they have been issued taints the minister. The minister, therefore, has, as a citizen of America, has a responsibility to have his name cleared. He has nothing to prevent him from going to America and face them to those accusations. He, as a representative of the government of Guyana, also has a moral responsibility to understand that once your name is called, you have to do the right thing. This is one of the reasons why we have asked him to step down. That is the most decent thing he can do if he does not want to go forward. But he represents the government of Guyana. He is the one who signed on behalf of the government of Guyana for the spy equipment. And therefore, there's not only he who is on trial, but the government itself that is on trial. You cannot investigate yourself. Therefore, let us have an international inquiry that will look into all the machinations that have been going on. It also brings into sharp focus the reason why the government is silent and reluctant to go forward on this moral issue.
The issue of a dossier has surfaced during this discussion. In fact, a couple of months ago, I think it was, reported in the press that the joint opposition political parties were in the process of preparing a dossier. What is the status of that dossier? And then I'll ask you what it contains, or likely to
Well, the
contain.
dossier is in draft. I mean, I know that because I'm responsible for coordinating it. And the draft has been circulated among the members. But we lack one very important piece of evidence to establish the case for the inquiry. And that is the record of the court proceedings in Brooklyn, New York. That has not yet arrived at our desk. And that's the principal hold-up at this point in time. But when it says in draft, we still have to work on the draft because we have to meet and collectively decide how we can strengthen it or make it more general or whatever it is the case may be. The parties are all considering it right now individually. So when we meet, I think we plan to meet on Thursday, we'll be in a better position to advance the work of the draft. But the draft is being prepared. But if I can just go back very briefly to the point that Keith Scott made about the minister. I mean, again, is a layman. I think we have to put this thing in a political context. And one of the problems is that in our political culture, we don't have something called the acceptance of moral responsibility. I would expect that if somebody has charges like that lying about him, that the decent thing to do would be to resign or step aside until the charges are cleared up. But we don't have that type of culture here. And part of what we're fighting for is a change in political culture where such actions